What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. Today's episode is pretty cool. I'm going to be sharing a special build project with you guys. Now, this boat behind me dates back 9 years. That's a long time ago, and this thing still looks fresh. I'm gonna show you guys this boat in just a second. A little bit of back history though. So the first boat that I ever built was actually 17 years ago. I don't wanna say how old I am. Anyways, that was like a little sneak boat, duck boat build. It was like a 1636 skinny little riveted John boat. I didn't really know much about boating at the time. I had already been in the welding and fabrication industry for 4 years at that time, so I knew what I was doing as far as the metal work goes. Obviously, since that build, I've built a couple boats for myself, but the first tournament John boat that I ever built for a customer is right here behind me. Now, this boat belongs to a buddy of mine. He's actually like my best friend now. Like, I've known this dude for almost a decade, and he is the one who got me into building all these boats. He opened my eyes to a whole new world of building and boats and fishing tournaments that I had no idea even existed. And he's the first one that turned me on to well builds. Now, this is a well-built 1652. It's the perfect John boat, in my opinion, if you want to do a John boat to bass boat conversion. Now, obviously, this boat is old. Look at this thing. It is still clean though. Very fresh looking build. He doesn't use it very often. He's only used this boat a handful of times. You might be wondering why it's back in my shop. Well, it's here because he just moved recently and he did not have a place to keep it. So I'm keeping it here for him temporarily. While it's here, we're probably gonna be doing some modifications to it. I'm gonna turn this camera around. I'm gonna show you guys this rig. This thing is dope. Let's check this thing out. All right, so here's the boat. It's a well-built 1652. It does have the gray cut groove hydro turf in it. And we installed this stuff in here 9 years ago. It still looks pretty fresh. I'm gonna start up here at the bow and give you guys a quick once through. Now, the way that I did this bow, it was fine the way it was. And keep in mind, this was the first time I'd ever seen one of these well-built. I mean, that whole front end is so aggressive, but we did a theme in here, and that was the industrial diamond plate theme. So I wrapped this front all the way across a V on both sides, and it just gives it a whole industrial look. Basically, that was just for aesthetics. There was nothing wrong with what was already up here. We've got his Minn Kota Fortrex mounted right up here on his bracket, and then he's got a recessed foot pedal tray. Now, this was the first recessed foot pedal tray I'd ever installed. I did do kickstands underneath here. Same type of thing I still do today. He does have a 10-inch graph in here, and he's got a 7-inch in the back. I don't have those in here to show you guys, but you can get a feel for how this front deck was laid out. Now, the original front deck came back and stopped right here. He got the extended front deck because he custom ordered this boat. And then from there, it came back an additional like 16 inches to here. So from here back, we added this. And this was all added in as one piece. Now, when I did the sheeting on this, I added an entire sheet of 1/8 aluminum across this whole deck right here. And then we used the diamond plate for the floor and the side panels. He's got some type of horse stall mats or something in here, restaurant style mats, and that's pretty cool. And give him some traction and keep, you know, some of the slime down for when you're fishing. But the diamond plate is still a pretty cool asset, and I like it. I like the way it turned out. Obviously, I do a lot of things different now, but considering that this was 10 years ago and my first real project, I think it turned out pretty sick. Same thing with the back bench here. We did have a whole sheet of aluminum in here and on the face. So this thing is super strong and it's still pretty lightweight. The hatches that I use in here, they're a little bit different. I did not make these hatches. These came from R&R Design. Now, I used to use these hatches on a lot of my early builds just because I did not have the extrusion for this. I even started making these and copying them and building them the same way. There's a couple of things that I don't like about these and the reason that I don't use them anymore. The main reason is the fact that the lid is only a 1/2 inch turn back. Now, it does have this rubber seal on here, and these do have drain tubes in them. Well, at least the front, yeah, this one has one right there. Got drain tubes in them. But the back of this lip right here on the actual lid, it doesn't bend up. You see how it's just 3-sided pan? So the rivets that are in there are underneath of this turf. So if you ever get loose, you're gonna have to peel that turf or drill a hole through it and put a new rivet in there. That's why I stopped using this style. I mean, they are pretty heavy duty, but I just feel like eventually if you use this thing a lot and fish tournaments every weekend, it's gonna end up loosening up. So I don't use these style hatches anymore. Every now and then I'll get a customer that wants me to make them like this. But honestly, I feel like the style that I sell now is a lot heavier duty, and they are literally built to last a lifetime. There's nothing that's gonna happen with them later on down the road that you can't fix just by putting a couple new rivets into a hinge or even replacing the entire hinge. Inside of this back compartment, put some more diamond plate in there, built the floors on the sides. This is the way I do a lot of my builds still. I welded the battery trays in the center. You got a hatch, a port and starboard, and then you got storage on either side of that. Same thing on the other side. The back bench area was a little bit different. This is different. This is not like the style hatches I make now. It does work out good though. This thing is beefy. I put a stiffener support across here. I basically made this like a pan, and then I came back and I put these corner pieces in here so it has something to catch on here. It also catches on the center brace here. Inside of here, very similar setup. He's got his Noco Genius 2-bank battery tender in here, gas tank, bilge pump. This way they're all pretty much set up. This is a heavy duty hatch. Does not have any issues with this thing flexing. We literally put a 400-pound guy back here. We did incorporate this diamond plate up onto his corner walls. This is a 15-inch transom, so it slopes down in the back. And then on the back of the boat, he wanted to reinforce it. So what we did was we put an entire sheet of 1/8-inch aluminum diamond plate on here. Now I brought it down at an angle to kind of kick it back, make it look aggressive, give it a little bit more flair. I also built these spud poles that are on here. And this is the first time I've done these. I still sell the same exact ones 10 years later if you guys want some of these. The only difference is the ones that I have, I usually get powder coated, which they come with a hole in the side right there. That allows you to strap your transom tie downs down. And the reason that we wanted to make these originally was because he had handles on here, and the handles are kind of stupid. You're not gonna be picking this boat up by hand. There's no point in having a handle on here. We did away with the handle, added the tie down into the side of the spud pole. So we got one of those on either side. He's got a cool little Honda 4-stroke on here. This is the old school 9.9. This is before they had the new 4-stroke motors that you could upgrade with a simple ECU, but pretty sure this one's actually a 22. And he's got a cool hydraulic jack plate on here. This thing is pretty sick. I do like this. It allows you to bring the motor up and down. This was the first time I had seen one of these. I was mind blown when I started building this entire boat, just for the simple fact that this was all new to me and I was trying to figure it out. I did weld this piece on here for his transom. You know, a lot of stuff that I've still incorporated almost 10 years later that I'm still doing on boats. We learned right here on this project right here. But if you guys are looking for a jack plate, this Atlas jack plate is definitely a cool jack plate. I'll show you how that works in just a second. So that gets us into the back deck. Now this is his nav light. The only thing I did not do on this boat was run all of the electrical. And the only reason I didn't do it is because I wasn't familiar with it and I wasn't comfortable. My cousin helped me out because he's a master Ford technician and he knew a lot about running 12-volt systems, and he did all of that for me. But other than that, every piece of this boat was put together by me personally. Now these side panels, a little bit different. I bent them up the sides. They do meet pretty flush in the back up here, and the front is a little bit lower. And that's just because the way that these well builds come, that front deck was a little bit higher than the back deck, and I just continued off of that. One thing I would have done differently between then and now would be to build this entire front deck streamlined to the back deck. That way it would kind of meet up a little bit better, but it really doesn't look too bad the way it's split up right here. Now he does have his original live well in here, and basically all of the pumps are right there behind that. Kind of the same way I have them now, except all the switches are exposed and there's a hatch in top so you can get to those from inside of there. Pretty cool though. He's still got a lot of floor space in here, and I really think that these diamond plate panels look pretty cool, and I still incorporate the same type of idea with his fish finder graph mounting up on the side, and right behind that, this is the switch for his hydraulic jack plate. That thing's pretty cool. That really allows you to trim out that motor while you're running and get optimal speed out of it. Let's go back up to the front deck and check this thing out. So like I said, the compartment that we built from here to here was all constructed out of 1/8-inch sheet. Now I did have framing in here of angles and stuff. I put a diamond plate floor in there. He's got a small lawnmower battery in there, and that battery actually controls his graphs and the pumps and electricals that goes inside of there. Still got a lot of storage space in here. You can see I built this out of angle. Same thing, pan floor. Make it simple, man. These are all building techniques that I've been using for a long time. You don't have to change something if it works. These hatches were small, but this one was basically a cooler. He wanted a little cooler. First build I did had a cooler in it. How sick is that? The one on the other side is storage. You can reach up underneath it here. It's kind of a tight squeeze because this was all one enclosed box right here with the original setup that he got. It had a hole in the face of it where you could reach in from this side, but we closed that up because we have these hatches now to get in here. Pretty dope build though, man. I was hyped about it. Let's go check out that live well real quick. All right, so here is his live well. Now he did something that a lot of guys started doing a while back. Inside of this live well, they put like a 1/4 inch of that pink board foam, and they came back with some FRP board, and they sealed this off with some caulking. That basically turns this thing into a cooler. Now, the only downside to using this stock live well is that it's off on the side of the boat, so it kind of throws off the weight distribution. And not only that, it's kind of small. I mean, to keep 5 big fish alive in a tournament, yeah, it's probably gonna have a hard time doing that. But it does work, it's plumbed up, everything works fine with it. All the plumbing and stuff is inside of here. I mean, exactly the way that I do the boat builds now. The only difference is a lot of these switches are exposed. All the switches are in the faceplate over here. Definitely pretty cool for being my first project ever for a customer. All right, guys, so this thing is sick though. I wanna know what you guys think about this. I mean, from where I was to where I'm at now, obviously I've learned a lot along the way, but I came into the game already knowing a lot about fabrication, and with the help and knowledge that I learned from John that owns this boat, he really kind of paved the way for where I was gonna go with it. And he did paint the side of this boat. He painted the whole thing right before I put the turf in it, and it's just an army green camo color. I'm thinking that we might do an upgrade on this boat that he wanted me to do back then, and I was a little nervous about doing because this was my first project. But you've seen me do that on some other well builds. I'm doing it right now on Project X. I did it with King Neptune, and that's change out this top gunnel. Now, he wanted me to do that originally. That's where I got the idea from, and that's probably what I'm gonna do for him. His boat is here. It's not gonna be that big a deal. I'll take this cleat off. I'm gonna cut through this front. I'm gonna run the 1x3 rectangular tubing all the way down to the back, and then we'll have to come back and feather it in back here. Same exact way I did on King Neptune. It will change the entire look of the boat. It'll give you an area on this side where you can walk down. It will also give us an area where we can hide LED lights up under the interior and exterior of this rail. It will change the whole look of the boat. I'm definitely gonna do this for him. I don't know when I'm gonna have time to do it, but he's not in a big hurry. He doesn't use this boat very often. It's something that I'm gonna be doing for him though in the near future. All right guys, pretty crazy, right? I mean, to think that this was built 10 years ago and it still looks that good, he has taken excellent care of this work. Now, John has become a great friend of mine. He is one of my closest friends, my mentor. I go to him anytime I have a question. Now, I've learned a lot, and I always talk to him about what I've learned, and we share knowledge. He knows a lot about fishing. He knows a ton about electronics and all the new latest and greatest fishing stuff, and I love picking his brain about that type of stuff. He reads up on everything. Anytime there's a new product, I always hit him up. I'm like, hey, did you see this? And he knows a ton about it. He's got literature that he's read about everything. He always gives me the inside scoop. If I have a question about, weight distribution or different sections of the boat and how I want to lay things out just to get his opinion on it, it definitely comes in handy because he tournament John boat fished for a couple of decades. I mean, he's been fishing lots of big lakes and lots of small lake tournaments. He's been fishing for a long time. He's my favorite fishing partner too, by the way. Anyways, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. I want to know what you think about this build. Leave a comment, hit that like and subscribe button. I got some other cool videos that are coming up very shortly. You know what I got to do. Let's get back to work. So you saw the first tournament John boat I ever built. Let's fast forward 7 years later. That's when I built the King Neptune. This build is insane. The amount of time and fabrication that I put into this is just outrageous. I mean, I have probably had at least 350, 400 hours into this build. Obviously, There's a lot of differences from the first build to this build, but this project was a statement for me, and I went well above and beyond on the actual layout and just every aspect of this entire rig. Now, one of the main differences between that boat build that I just showed you and this one, I built all of the hatches that are in this rig. They're dope. The layout of this thing is really cool. The big rod locker hatch in the middle, all these compartments in here. It's got a humongous front deck on it. I did clean this boat up. I just got this boat back from Matt Streichel. I'm sure you guys have seen that this is the boat build that I ran on SB Fishing TV's channel. He's been using this boat for the past 2.5 years. Now, I hate to take this boat back from him. This is great publicity, and honestly, I have no use for it. But the reason that I have King Neptune back is because I have to sell this boat. I have an opportunity to buy a new house. My parents have already moved out, and I'm standing in my dad's garage right now. This is going to be my new Trick 10's workshop, which is awesome because it's a 2-car detached garage, and it's got lots of room and machinery and tools and power where I can actually work out of here and do more than one project at a time. The house also has an attached garage. It's got a lot more square footage. It's the move that I need to make for the family, and I need some money to come up with a down payment on the house. So King Neptune is for sale. I cleaned this thing up. The wrap looks really good on the outside of it still. This wrap is only a year old. The build itself is about 2.5 years old. The turf's got a little bit of wear and tear on it. I mean, SB fished this thing hard. He fished 2.5 John boat seasons, plus he's taken this thing all over the place. But everything on it is still in working condition. And the only thing it doesn't have in it is the 106 that was up on the front and some lithium batteries that are in the back. That was stuff that Matt Streichel had just thrown into the rig while he was using it that he hung on to. The build will come with the 2 9-inch graphs for the front and the side console, and they could just be interchanged and put 2 9s up front if you want to have 2 graphs on the dual graph bridge. The only other thing I don't have in here is the batteries. I have some lithium batteries I'm going to put in here. I got 2 100 amp hour lifetime lithium batteries I'm going to put in the back. There is also a spot for a 3rd battery. I might put another battery in there if I can find one. If not, the rig might just come with 2 batteries for right now. This build is sick though. I'm going to turn the camera around and give you all a quick little walkthrough of this thing. It's one of my favorite builds of all time. Let's get right into it. All right, guys, so here it is. This is the first dual custom graph bridge that I made. It's got the PW for professional welding in one side. Other side's got the SB on it. Now, we put a lot of stuff inside of this. It's got a big cooler here. This is just a storage box. Got the black box up inside of there. Got a little day box in here. And another mirror image on that side. Another big storage box right behind this. Same thing on the other side. This one actually has a hidden compartment in it. Now, I don't think we talked about this in the real video, but a little hidden compartment in there in case you want to put your pistol in there. The cool thing about this deck that really set this whole boat build off is this hatch right here. Rod locker hatch. This thing goes way up inside of there. It's big. I think it's almost 9 feet long, so you can fit some big rods up inside of there. Glove box over here. 2 speakers. That's the electrical panel switch over there. Got the 9-inch graph on the swing arm here. You could just get another cradle, throw it up on that top graph bridge. Take this one up front if you wanted to have 2, or just add another graph up there. The power cable is already there, and the Ethernet connection ports are already there. Big live well. I just cleaned all this thing up pretty good. Some of the hatches have a little bit of wear and tear on them from the paint, but for the most part, it's still in really good shape. You got 3 battery trays here. It does have a Tinder charger on this side, and it's got fire extinguisher over there. I got the gas tank outside because I cleaned that all up, and I'm gonna put the 2 lithium batteries in here. If I can come up with a 3rd one, I'll do that, but we'll see. Took the motor off because it's kind of tight in here, and I didn't have room to put it on this side where I wanted to work because my dad's got his Corvette in here still. But as you can see on this side has the workbench, so it cuts like almost 3 feet. It's like 32 inches out of this floor space in here. But either way, it does come with this Tohatsu 99 20 horsepower ECU upgraded outboard. It's a sick boat, man. I'm gonna do a whole video on this boat once I get the batteries in here, because it's got all kinds of electronics and lights and stuff that I want to turn on and show you guys. And I can't really do that without having the batteries. but the wrap looks really good. Just an all in all sick project, man. I really hate to sell this thing, but at the moment, I have no choice. All right, guys, so big difference between my first build and my hundreds. I don't really know how many I've done. I've done a lot though, but this build is sick, man. The one thing I started doing when I started building these hatches with the turf, which I didn't do in that first build, was I actually run all of the hatch frames underneath the turf. You can see it's nice and smooth in here. The other boat, the way I did it, I put the sheets of turf in first, then I cut out my holes and drop my hatches in around that. Now the frames are exposed on that. It's the first time I ever built a boat. So, you know, it was easier to do it that way. And I honestly was thinking about the fact that I wasn't sure those hatches are gonna hold up long term. And if they're not underneath the turf, you could potentially take them out and put some new ones in at a later date. Either way, guys, you live and learn. If you guys are interested in this boat, leave a comment, reach out to me. Now, I am gonna do a dedicated video just for the purpose of, I'm trying to sell this boat. I'm gonna walk through every inch of it. I'm gonna talk about how everything works, why I built it the way it is, and tell about all the bells and whistles that are inside this rig. You guys can look for that next week. This thing's sick though. Somebody is going to be getting King Neptune. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment, guys. I will see y'all in the next one. Let's get back to work.